Joining us now, a good friend of this program, commentator Michael Reagan. Michael, as always, we appreciate your insights and analysis. Thanks for joining us again this morning from the City of Angels there, Los Angeles.
Earthquake-free in Los Angeles.
Yeah, before we part company, we want to talk about the mindset one has to bring to California and earthquakes in general. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about the comparison between two commanders-in-chief. President Obama's tone, very different from what your father offered, addressing this nation in the wake of airstrikes against Libya in the late 1980s. Let's listen to President Ronald Reagan in the wake of those airstrikes.
Several weeks ago in New Orleans, I warned Colonel Gaddafi we would hold his regime accountable for any new terrorist attacks launched against American citizens. Today, we have done what we had to do. If necessary, we shall do it again. It gives me no pleasure to say that, and I wish it were otherwise. Before Gaddafi seized power in 1969, the people of Libya had been friends of the United States. And I'm sure that today most Libyans are ashamed and disgusted that this man has made their country a synonym for barbarism around the world. The Libyan people are a decent people, caught in the grip of a tyrant.
President Ronald Reagan. Michael, it was interesting. I saw a headline from an Australian newspaper of all publications in the wake of what went on in Libya, and the headline read, "Reagan nails those SOBs," and went ahead and spelled out what the acronym means. So a candid headline from our Australian friends, and what the Australians understood with that stark headline, it seemed the rest of the world did as well. Is there any way President Obama can change course?
No, President Obama has to stop trying to be everybody's friend and be the commander-in-chief. Ronald Reagan was commander-in-chief. He didn't interest himself in being your friend. He interested himself on you respecting the United States of America. Now, when he made that speech down in New Orleans, he just warned Gaddafi. But on the other side of the equation, he did not go out and start announcing what he was going to do about it. He just went ahead and did it. Same thing with Grenada. The members of Congress didn't find out about Grenada until we had already landed in Grenada. That's when they found out about Grenada. In fact, there was a vote in the Oval Office between 10 of my father's people, and the vote was 7-3 against going in Grenada. And one of the 7 called my father after we went in there and said, "Mr. President, you were in the 3, not in the 7, but you still went into Grenada. Why did you do that?" And my father said very simply, "My 1 vote outnumbered your 7 votes." He was the commander-in-chief, and this president hasn't figured that one out at this point in time. So I don't need him to tell me what he is going to do. What I need him to do is show me what he's willing to do.
A lot of us have taken a look at the behavior of this president and said that Mr. Obama, rather than being commander-in-chief, in many ways is observer-in-chief or bystander-in-chief. Is that a fair criticism?
Well, I think to an extent that is a fair criticism, but again, it goes back to, does everybody like me? And it's not about everybody liking him. And I think you see how he feels about the military in general. I believe I was reading a story this morning. You have 3 White House people at Michael Brown's funeral, no White House people at the funeral of Major General Green, the highest ranking general who was in fact murdered in Afghanistan about a week ago. So I think you see where the president's, where everything lies. It's all about politics. The President of the United States is the president of all the people. He's not president of blacks. He's not president of whites. He's not president of Chinese. He's the president of the United States of all of her people. And I don't think he will ever get it because he just doesn't know how.
As we take a look at this president, it is fascinating that even before he took office, he was awarded a Nobel Prize. He, of course, picked up that Nobel Prize later and proffered a lecture, which some of us say tends to be standard way of communicating. Back in 2009, his lecture in the wake of receiving the Nobel Prize is, he said, we would face the world as it is, evoking perhaps a memory of our first Commander-in-Chief, George Washington, who said, we must see the world as it is, not merely as we wish it to be. Is this another example where Mr. Obama tends to really see the world as he would like it to be rather than seeing the world as it is?
No, he sees the world in the way he sees the world. He observes it the way he would like it to be, yes, not in the way, in fact, it is out there. And how it is out there is the world is looking to America to lead. Listen, the Brits aren't going to lead. They look to America to lead. And when we lead, they will come alongside and they will follow, as will other people. You know, you remember when my father went into Libya, he didn't announce the planes flying into Libya in the middle of the night, taking out 2 of the homes that Muammar Gaddafi, in fact, owned. He just went and did it, kept Muammar Gaddafi quiet for over 20 years doing that. It's about leadership. He didn't pick up the phone, my father, and call the United Nations and ask permission to be the President of the United States of America. He led. Let's get over this. The United Nations, I don't care what we do, they're never going to leave New York. They're never going to leave New York. So why do we worry so much about what they're going to say about us? They don't like us. Most of the people that sit in the United Nations don't like us. They vote against us. So why do we kowtow to a group of people who only come to town to basically meet their hookers?
Well, speaking of New York, as you have in stark and candid ways right there, Michael, talking about the United Nations, the New York Times editorial board with an editorial just the other day dealing with ISIS, saying as follows, and I quote, "Making this happen will take American leadership, but so far neither he," meaning President Obama, "nor America's allies have laid out a coherent vision of exactly what this fight might entail or how to achieve success." A couple of minutes remain. I want to get to that topic of earthquakes before we go, but are we ever going to see a coherent foreign policy vision from this president?
No, you're not, because the president's waiting. I think the president wants to go into Syria, but he wants the American people to rise up, to force him to do it so he can blame it on America and others. This is what you wanted. This is why I did it. That's not leadership. That's leading from behind, which he is very used to.
A minute and a half remains. Michael, take us through the mindset. You're a Californian. Earthquakes yesterday up north. What do you do to maintain your sanity as the earth starts to rumble?
I'll tell you, I'm sad. Silver Oak lost all that Cabernet. My God, I drink that Cabernet. It's very good, by the way. I will tell you, I keep my sanity just like the people in Oklahoma keep their sanity living in Tornado Alley, just like the people on the Outer Banks keep their sanity when hurricanes come in. We love the areas that we live in. We live here for those reasons. But you know something? When an earthquake hits, it's 20 seconds. When a hurricane comes or a tornado comes, you're watching it come your way for a long period of time. At least earthquakes come and they go. And guess what? We're going to stay. The only reason we'd leave is if your grandchildren never leave, and we don't have any yet.
Well, we can understand the reasons why you remain tied to California. Would that your mindset make a majority in California? I know we'll continue to work for that, but maybe that's like the musical Man of La Mancha, dreaming the impossible dream. As always, Michael Reagan, your insights and analysis, most welcome here on America's Forum. We look forward to our next visit.
Thank you, JD.
So you got the word from Michael Reagan. That's his take. What is yours? Why don't you tweet me your comments at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. You can also visit us at newsmaxtv.com/comment. And don't forget Facebook. You find us at facebook.com/Newsmax. Back to face you again in just a minute.